The crystal wine glass slipped from Elena Vasquez's trembling fingers. She watched it fall in slow-motion expensive Riedel stemware, the kind that cost more than her weekly paycheck, tumbling toward the marble floor of Rossini's dining room. Her hand shot out on pure instinct, catching it an inch before impact. Wine sloshed over the rim, splashing across her white sleeve, but the glass survived. "Careful, Vasquez." Chen's voice dripped with condescension. The head server stood behind her, his arms crossed over his pressed black vest. "That's the third time this week you've nearly destroyed our glassware. Mr. Castellano doesn't tolerate clumsiness." Elena's jaw tightened. It didn't break. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. This time, Marcus stepped closer, invading her space. "But you're becoming a liability. The other servers are complaining. You're distracted, you're slow, and frankly..." His eyes raked over her worn shoes, the frayed edge of her apron she'd tried to hide with safety pins. "You don't fit Rossini's image anymore." The words landed like punches. Elena had worked at Rossini's for 11 months, grinding through double shifts at Chicago's most exclusive Italian restaurant. The tips were good when Marcus didn't skim them. The schedule was brutal when Marcus didn't deliberately give her the worst sections. But she needed this job desperately. "I'm doing my best," Elena said quietly, hating how her voice wavered. "I just need..." "Your best isn't good enough." Marcus pulled out his phone, scrolling with exaggerated boredom. "I'm recommending your termination to management. Effective end of this shift." Elena's stomach dropped. "Please don't do that." "Please?" Marcus smiled, and it was cruel. "Are you begging, Elena?" She should have had more pride. Should have told him exactly where he could shove his recommendation. But pride didn't pay for her grandmother's insulin, didn't satisfy the men who called every Thursday demanding payment on her father's debts, didn't keep a roof over their heads in their crumbling Pilsen apartment. "Please don't fire me," Elena heard herself say, the words scraping her throat raw. "I'll work harder. I'll take any shift you give me. Just please." Pathetic. Marcus pocketed his phone. "Finish your section. We'll discuss your future after closing." He walked away, leaving Elena standing in the empty dining room at 4:30 in the afternoon, the pre-dinner calm before the storm. Her reflection stared back from the mirrored wall, 26 years old but looking older, dark circles under her eyes, her black hair pulled into a bun so tight it gave her headaches. When had she become this person? This desperate, broken version of herself? Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Final notice. Payment due Friday. $8,000. You know what happens if you're short." Friday was 3 days away. She had $600. Elena deleted the text with shaking fingers and returned to polishing silverware. The dinner rush would start in 90 minutes. She needed to focus, needed to be perfect, needed to somehow convince Marcus or whoever he reported to that she deserved to keep this job. The front door opened with its signature chime. Elena glanced up, expecting the first reservation, but it was too early. A man entered, and the air in the room seemed to shift. He was tall, easily 6'2", with dark hair silvering at the temples and a face that could have been carved from marble. His charcoal suit probably cost more than Elena made in 6 months, tailored so perfectly it looked like armor. But it was his eyes that caught her. Dark, almost black, with an intensity that made her feel simultaneously seen and evaluated. A little girl walked beside him, her small hand gripping his with desperate tightness. She couldn't have been more than 6, wearing a navy dress with white tights and patent leather shoes. Her blonde hair fell in perfect ringlets, but her face was pale, her eyes enormous and frightened. Marcus materialized instantly, his entire demeanor transforming into obsequious charm. "Mr. Castellano, we weren't expecting you until 6. Your private table isn't quite... We're early." The man's voice was quiet, controlled, but it carried absolute authority. "Sophia wanted to come." Castellano. Elena's blood went cold. This was Mr. Castellano? The owner whose name Marcus dropped constantly, the invisible force whose standards apparently justified every cruelty, every impossible demand? Of course. Marcus snapped his fingers at Elena without looking at her. "Vasquez, prepare the private booth immediately. Mr. Castellano requires..." "Actually," the man Castellano interrupted, his gaze finally landing on Elena. "This table is fine." He gestured to table 12, directly in Elena's section. The table she'd just finished setting, the one by the window overlooking the Chicago River where autumn sunlight turned the water to gold. Marcus's face twitched with displeasure, but he recovered smoothly. As you wish, sir. Vasquez will take excellent care of you. Elena found herself moving on autopilot, pulling out chairs, placing napkins. Her hands had stopped shaking, they always did when she was working. Muscle memory took over, the practiced grace of a good server making her movements smooth despite the panic still churning in her stomach. Welcome to Rossini's, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. My name is Elena, and I'll be— The little girl made a sound. Small, frightened, barely more than a whimper. Castellano's entire body tensed. His hand covered his daughter's, gentle but worried. Sophia, tesoro, what's wrong? The child didn't answer. She was staring at Elena with those huge eyes, trembling slightly. Elena's heart twisted. She recognized that looked the same expression her youngest cousin wore after his parents' divorce, when the world felt too big and loud and unpredictable. This wasn't a spoiled rich kid having a tantrum. This was a terrified child barely holding herself together. Hey, Elena said softly, crouching down so she was at eye level with the girl. She knew this wasn't protocol, knew Marcus would have something to say about it later, but she couldn't help herself. It's okay to be scared of new places. I get scared too sometimes. Sophia's trembling slowed slightly. She didn't speak, but she was listening. You know what helps me? Elena continued, keeping her voice gentle. I look for something beautiful, something that makes me feel less scared. Do you want to try? The little girl hesitated, then gave the tiniest nod. Elena pointed toward the window. See that river? Watch the boats. There's a red one coming now, see it? That's a water taxi. It takes people all over the city. And if you look really close, sometimes you can see ducks swimming. They're very silly. They bob their heads underwater looking for fish. Sophia's gaze shifted to the window. Her grip on her father's hand loosened just slightly. There. Elena smiled. That's better, isn't it? Sometimes we just need to remember that even when things feel scary, there's still beauty right in front of us. She stood, professional mask sliding back into place, and finally looked at Castellano. His expression was unreadable, but something in his dark eyes had changed. He was watching her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. What would you like to drink? Elena asked, pulling out her notepad. Sparkling water for both of us. His voice had softened slightly. And do you have apple juice? Not from concentrate. We have fresh pressed from Michigan orchards. Perfect. He paused. What's your name? Your real name, not just what's on the tag. Elena. Elena Vasquez. Elena. He said it carefully, with the correct Spanish pronunciation that most people didn't bother with. Thank you for what you just did, for Sophia. She's a beautiful little girl, Elena said honestly. I'll get those drinks right away. As she walked toward the bar, she could feel his eyes on her back. The weight of that gaze was different from the usual leering or dismissal she got from customers. This felt like being studied, analyzed, measured against some invisible standard. Marcus intercepted her at the service station. What the hell was that? What was what? You don't crouch down and chat with Mr. Castellano's daughter like she's your friend. You take orders, you serve, you stay invisible. His voice was a harsh whisper. Do you have any idea how important that man is? If you screw this up— I was being kind to a scared child, Elena interrupted. That's literally what hospitality means. Hospitality means doing what you're told. Marcus grabbed her wrist, his fingers digging in hard enough to hurt. You're already on thin ice, Vasquez. One more mistake tonight and you're done. Understood? Elena yanked her arm free. Understood. She prepared the drinks with hands that had started shaking again from anger now instead of fear. The fresh-pressed apple juice was in the back refrigerator, stored specially for the few customers who actually cared about quality. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. As she poured, Elena noticed Sophia's choice. Not soda, not chocolate milk, but simple apple juice, something pure and uncomplicated. When she returned to table 12, Sophia had turned her chair slightly toward the window. She was watching the river intently, her small face still pale but less frightened. Castellano sat beside her, one hand resting near hers on the table close enough to comfort, far enough to give her space. Your drinks, Elena said, placing them carefully. The apple juice is made fresh this morning. No sugar added, just apples. Sophia looked at the glass, then at Elena. Her lips moved, forming silent words Elena couldn't quite catch. Then, barely audible. Thank you. The words were so quiet, Elena almost missed them. But Castellano heard. His eyes widened fractionally, and something raw crossed his face. Hope, relief, joy, all carefully controlled but unmistakably there. "You're very welcome," Elena said to Sophia, pretending not to notice the emotional earthquake happening at the table. "Are you ready to order, or do you need a few more minutes?" "A few minutes," Castellano said, his voice rougher than before. He was looking at his daughter like she'd just performed a miracle. Elena left them alone, but she watched from the service station. Sophia was pointing at something in the river, and Castellano was leaning close to see, his attention completely focused on her. Whatever had made the little girl speak even those 2 tiny words, it mattered enormously. "Stop staring," Marcus hissed, appearing beside her again. "You're supposed to be finishing your side work, not gawking at customers. They needed time to look at the menu. They need you to do your job." Marcus thrust a tray at her. "Table 8 wants their check, Table 3 needs water refills, and the Jefferson party just arrived for their 6 o'clock reservation. Move." The next hour blurred into the familiar chaos of dinner service. Rossini's filled rapidly, Chicago's elite packing the dining room for Thursday night dinner. Elena moved between tables on autopilot, her body executing tasks while her mind spun with anxiety. The debt collector's text message burned in her memory. 3 days, $8,000. Impossible. But she kept returning to table 12, checking on Castellano and Sophia. The little girl had ordered spaghetti with butter, plain, simple, safe. Castellano had the braised short rib, though Elena noticed he barely touched it. His attention stayed fixed on Sophia, who was managing tiny bites, her movements careful and precise. "How is everything?" Elena asked during one check-in. "Perfect," Castellano said. Then, quieter. "Your suggestion about the river, she's been watching it all evening. It's helping." "Good." Elena refilled his water glass. "Sometimes we just need something steady to focus on. The river's always there, always moving forward." His dark eyes met hers. "You sound like you speak from experience. Everyone has something they're trying to move forward from." The words came out before Elena could stop them, too honest, too personal. But Castellano didn't look offended. If anything, he seemed to understand. "Papa." Sophia's tiny voice broke the moment. "I'm full. You did very well, Tesoro." Castellano's entire demeanor softened when he looked at his daughter. "Are you ready to go home?" Sophia nodded, then looked at Elena. "Bye." One word, but it felt like a gift. Elena smiled. "Goodbye, Sophia. Thank you for visiting Rossini's. I hope you come back soon." As Castellano paid cash, with a tip that made Elena's eyes widen when she processed it later, Marcus appeared, hovering with predatory interest. "Mr. Castellano, I trust everything was satisfactory? I personally selected Vasquez for your table, knowing her. Adequate skills would be sufficient." Adequate. The word was chosen deliberately, a small cut disguised as professionalism. Castellano's expression didn't change, but something cold entered his eyes. "Miss Vasquez was exceptional. My daughter hasn't spoken to a stranger in 11 months. Tonight, she spoke." "That's not adequate, Marcus. That's extraordinary." Marcus's face froze. "Of course, sir. I simply meant, I know what you meant." Castellano stood, helping Sophia with her coat. "See that Miss Vasquez receives my compliments. And Marcus will be returning, specifically to her section." He left with Sophia's hand in his, the little girl turning once to wave at Elena before disappearing through the front door. The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus turned to Elena, his face purple with rage. "My office. Now." "I'm in the middle of service," I said now. Elena followed him to the back office, her heart pounding. This was it. The explosion she'd been bracing for all night. Marcus slammed the door behind them, whirling on her with barely contained fury. "You think you're clever? Making yourself important to Mr. Castellano through his damaged daughter? I was just being kind. You were manipulating." Marcus stepped closer, his voice rising. "Playing the sympathetic angel so you could bypass me, go straight to the owner. Well, congratulations, Vasquez. Your little performance tonight just made everything worse for you." Elena's hands clenched. "I don't understand." "Of course you don't. You're too stupid to see the bigger picture." Marcus pulled out his phone, showing her a message thread. "Mr. Castellano may think you're special, but I run this restaurant day to day, and I decide who stays and who goes. You can't fire me for being good at my job. I can fire you for insubordination, for repeatedly failing to meet dress code standards, For the broken glassware last month. For showing up late 2 weeks ago. Marcus smiled. I've been documenting everything, Elena. Building a case. And tonight, you gave me the perfect excuse. What excuse? You made physical contact with a customer's child without permission. You crouched down and spoke to her, invaded her personal space. That's inappropriate conduct. Marcus typed something on his phone. I'm filing a formal complaint. Mr. Castellano may have been grateful in the moment, but once I explain the liability issues, the potential for, you're lying. Elena's voice shook with rage. You're twisting what happened because you're threatened. Threatened? By you? Marcus laughed. You're a broke waitress from Pilsen who's one shift away from homelessness. You're nothing, Elena. And by tomorrow morning, you'll be unemployed too. The words hung in the air between them. Elena thought about her grandmother, about the insulin running low, about the debt collectors who'd promised broken bones if Friday came without payment. She thought about Sophia's tiny voice saying thank you, about Castellano's expression of desperate hope. And she thought about pride, what was left of it. Please, Elena said, and she hated herself for begging again, but survival mattered more than dignity. Please don't do this. I need this job. I'll do whatever you want, take any schedule, work any section. Just please, begging doesn't work twice in one day. Marcus opened the office door. Clear out your locker, you're done. Should I continue with part 2? Retry JC, yes, part 2, the protection. Elena's hands shook as she emptied her locker. 11 months of her life reduced to a grocery bag. An extra pair of non-slip shoes with holes in the soles. A stained apron she'd bought herself because Rossini's only provided one. A half-empty bottle of ibuprofen, and the laminated photo of her grandmother that she kept taped inside the door. Abuela Rosa, smiling at her from a time before the diabetes, before the medications that cost more than rent, before everything fell apart. You have 5 minutes, Marcus said from the doorway, arms crossed. Then security escorts you out. Elena didn't respond. She couldn't trust her voice not to break. The kitchen staff pretended not to watch, but she felt their eyes on her. Some looked sympathetic, Maria, the prep cook who always saved her broken breadsticks. Others looked away quickly, afraid of being associated with failure. That's what she was now, a cautionary tale. The server who got too comfortable and paid the price. 3 minutes, Marcus announced. Elena slung the bag over her shoulder and walked past him without a word. The service hallway stretched ahead, fluorescent lights humming overhead. Behind her, the dining room buzzed with laughter and conversation, the sound of people who could afford $30 appetizers and didn't worry about whether they'd eat tomorrow. She pushed through the back exit into the alley. October in Chicago bit cold, the kind of evening chill that promised snow before Thanksgiving. Elena had worn only her thin jacket, the good one was at the dry cleaners, and she couldn't afford to pick it up yet. She wrapped her arms around herself and started walking toward the Blue Line station. Her phone buzzed. Another unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her click accept. Elena Vasquez? A man's voice, smooth and professional. Who is this? My name is Anthony Greco. I'm Mr. Castellano's attorney. He'd like to speak with you tomorrow morning at 10. I'm sending a car to pick you up. Elena stopped walking. What? Address on file is 2147 West 18th Place in Pilsen, correct? How do you have my address? Mr. Castellano obtained your employment records. No apology, just fact. The car will arrive at 9:45. Please be ready. I have. Elena's mind raced. She had nothing. No job, no appointments, no excuses. What does he want? That's between you and Mr. Castellano. Have a good evening, Miss Vasquez. He hung up before she could ask anything else. Elena stood on the sidewalk, commuters flowing around her, her mind spinning. Castellano wanted to see her. The owner of Rossini's, the man Marcus had been so desperate to impress. The man whose daughter had spoken for the first time in nearly a year wanted a meeting. Maybe he wanted to apologize for Marcus. Maybe he wanted to explain the restaurant's policies. Maybe her phone buzzed again. The debt collector. Tomorrow, noon, usual place. Bring money, or bring consequences. Elena's laugh came out broken. Tomorrow at noon, she was supposed to deliver $8,000. She didn't have to men who'd already made it. Clear what happened to people who disappointed them. Her father had disappeared, owing them money. 3 months later, they'd found him in the Chicago River. She kept walking. The apartment was dark when Elena got home. Their building in Pilsen was one of the old ones, built in the 20s, with radiators that clanked and windows that never quite closed. She climbed 3 flights of stairs, each step feeling heavier than the last. Inside, her grandmother sat in the recliner by the window, oxygen tube in her nose, hands folded over a rosary. At 78, Abuela Rosa looked fragile as tissue paper, but her eyes were sharp when Elena entered. "Mija," she said in Spanish, "you're home early." Elena set down her bag and knelt beside the chair, resting her head on her grandmother's lap like she used to as a child. "I got fired." Rosa's hand stroked Elena's hair, gentle and steady. "Tell me." So Elena did. All of it. Marcus's cruelty, Sophia's fear, Castellano's intensity, the moment everything collapsed. When she finished, her grandmother was quiet for a long moment. "This man," Rosa finally said. "Castellano. You said his daughter spoke to you?" "Just 2 words. Thank you and goodbye. But her father looked like I'd given him the world." "Then you did." Rosa's hand continued its soothing rhythm. "Some gifts we don't understand the value of until much later. It doesn't matter. I lost my job. And tomorrow." Elena's throat closed. She couldn't tell her grandmother about the debt collectors, about the money they'd never have, about the danger they were in. "Tomorrow you meet with this man who's sending a car for you." Elena looked up. "How did you—" "I've been alive 78 years, mija. I know when someone is keeping secrets." Rosa's expression was knowing. "This Castellano, his name is familiar. I heard it on the news. Something about real estate development and other things." "What other things?" "The kind of things we don't discuss in polite company." Rosa's eyes held hers. "But also, I heard he built a children's hospital. Donated millions. Lost his wife 2 years ago. His daughter has been struggling since then." Elena absorbed this. "How do you know all this?" "Mrs. Kowalski downstairs watches too much news, and she talks." Rosa smiled slightly. "But mija, listen to me. When a powerful man sends cars and lawyers, he wants something. You need to decide if what he offers is worth what he'll ask in return. What if what he offers is the only way to survive?" The words came out before Elena could stop them. Rosa's expression shifted to something sadder, wiser. "Then you do what you must. But keep your eyes open." She touched Elena's cheek. "And remember, you are not your father. His debts, his choices, his consequences, those are not yours to carry. They found him in the river, Abuela." "I know, mija. I know." They sat together in the darkness, the radiator clanking its irregular rhythm, the city humming beyond their thin walls. Elena thought about tomorrow, about black cars and powerful men, about debts that never stopped growing and daughters who stopped speaking. She thought about the way Castellano had looked at her, not with desire or dismissal, but with something more complex. Recognition, maybe. Like he saw past the server's uniform to the person underneath who was barely holding everything together. At 9:45 the next morning, a black Mercedes pulled up outside their building. Elena had been ready since 8, changing outfits 3 times before settling on her only good dress, navy blue, modest, professional. She'd twisted her hair into a bun, applied minimal makeup to hide the exhaustion, and tried not to think about what this meeting might mean. The driver was a young man in a suit who introduced himself simply as Marco. He opened the car door for her, his demeanor respectful but alert. Elena noticed the way his eyes scanned the street, the slight bulge under his jacket that suggested a weapon. "Mr. Castellano is looking forward to meeting with you," Marco said as they pulled into traffic. "Where are we going?" "His office downtown, the Castellano building on Wacker Drive." Of course he had his own building. Elena watched Chicago blur past the tinted windows, her nerves building with every block. They crossed the river, entered the loop, and pulled up to a glass and steel tower that looked like it touched the clouds. Marco escorted her through a lobby that was all marble and modern art, past security that nodded them through without question, into a private elevator with no buttons, just a keycard reader. They rose swiftly, Elena's ears popping, until the doors opened onto a penthouse floor. "This way, Miss Vasquez." The office was nothing like she expected. Instead of cold corporate sterility, it felt warm, dark wood, leather furniture, walls lined with books. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Lake Michigan, the water stretching endless and blue under October sunlight. Castellano stood by those windows, his back to her, phone pressed to his ear. "I don't care what he thinks is fair," he said, his voice quiet but edged with steel. "The waterfront project moves forward with our safety modifications, or it doesn't move at all. Those are union workers. I won't have their blood on my hands because some developer wants to save money." He listened for a moment. "Then he can find another contractor. We're done here." He hung up and turned. Today he wore a black suit with no tie, the collar of his white shirt open. It made him look slightly less formal but no less dangerous. His dark eyes found Elena immediately. "Miss Vasquez, thank you for coming. I don't think I had much choice." The words came out sharper than Elena intended. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "You always have a choice. You could have refused the car. Your lawyer didn't make it sound optional. Anthony can be assertive." Castellano gestured to the leather chairs arranged by the window. "Please sit. Can I get you something? Coffee, tea, water?" "I'm fine." Elena remained standing. "Why am I here, Mr. Castellano?" He studied her for a long moment. "You were fired last night. It wasn't a question. You know about that? Marcus Chen called me at 11 p.m. to report that you'd been terminated for inappropriate conduct with a customer's child." Castellano's expression was unreadable. He was very thorough in his explanation. Liability concerns, professional boundaries, the restaurant's reputation. Elena's stomach dropped. So that's why she was here, to sign some kind of waiver, probably. To agree not to sue or speak to the press about her termination. "It's fine," she said quickly. "I'm not going to make trouble. I just want to move on." "Move on to what?" The question caught her off guard. "Excuse me? Your employment record shows 11 months at Rossini's. Before that, 3 months at another restaurant where you also left suddenly. Before that, 6 months at a hotel that closed. You're skilled, educated, I saw your resume, 2 years at DePaul University studying business, but you keep taking jobs that don't match your qualifications." Castellano tilted his head slightly. "Why? That's none of your business. It became my business the moment my daughter spoke to you." The words hung in the air between them. Elena saw something flicker behind his controlled expression. Vulnerability, desperation, hope. "Mr. Castellano. Dante. My name is Dante." Dante. The name felt strange on her tongue, too intimate. "What happened last night with Sophia? That was just kindness. I wasn't trying to, I know." He moved closer, not threatening, but intense. "That's exactly why you're here. Because what you did wasn't calculated or strategic. You saw a frightened child and you helped her. No ulterior motive. No expectation of reward." His dark eyes held hers. "Do you know how rare that is in my world?" Elena's throat tightened. "I don't understand what you want from me. I want to hire you." The room seemed to tilt. "What?" "Not as a server, as Sophia's companion, her caregiver." Dante's voice was steady, but Elena caught the underlying emotion. She hasn't spoken to anyone outside immediate family since her mother died. 11 months of silence. Therapists, specialists, nothing worked. Then you spent 20 minutes with her and she said thank you. That doesn't mean I'm offering you $200,000 a year. Elena's knees actually weakened. She gripped the back of the chair for support. "That's not possible." "It's very possible. Salary plus benefits, private room in my home, full security detail, all expenses covered." Dante pulled a folder from his desk and handed it to her. "The contract is straightforward. You'd spend time with Sophia, helping her adjust to the world, accompanying her to activities, being a consistent, kind presence. No nursing duties, no traditional nanny responsibilities, just being there." Elena's hands shook as she opened the folder. The contract was real. Official letterhead, legal language, and a salary number that made her vision blur. "Why me?" Her voice came out barely above a whisper. "You could hire anyone. Someone with credentials, with experience. I've hired everyone." Frustration bled into Dante's tone. Nannies with PhDs in child development, specialists in selective mutism. The best money can buy. They all approached Sophia like she was a problem to be solved. He moved to the window, staring out at the lake. "You approached her like she was a person who needed kindness. That's what she responds to." Elena looked at the contract again. $200,000, enough to pay off her father's debts 3 times over. Enough for her grandmother's medications for years. Enough to breathe again. "There's something else?" Dante said quietly. "Something I need you to understand before you decide." "What?" He turned to face her fully. "My world is complicated. Dangerous, sometimes. I have enemies, business rivals, people who'd like to see me fail. If you work for me, if you become important to Sophia, those enemies will notice you. They may try to use you against me." Elena's blood went cold. "What kind of enemies?" "The kind that make threats. The kind that require security details and background checks." His expression was grave. "I won't lie to you, Elena. Taking this job means accepting a level of risk. But I can also promise you protection. 24-hour security, the best in Chicago. Nothing would happen to you or your family. You investigated my family? I investigate everyone who comes near my daughter. No apology. I know about your grandmother's medical needs. I know about the apartment in Pilsen with the broken heating. I know. He paused. I know about the debts. Elena's face went hot. That's private. Not when it puts you at risk. Dante's voice softened slightly. The men your father owed money to, they're still collecting from you, aren't they? She couldn't speak, couldn't confirm what he already knew. If you take this job, Dante said carefully, those debts disappear. I'll handle them. I can't let you. You can. And you will, if you're smart. He moved closer, close enough that Elena could see the thin scar above his left eyebrow, the slight shadow of exhaustion under his eyes. I'm not offering charity, Elena. I'm offering employment. You provide a service, helping my daughter and I compensate you appropriately. Part of that compensation is ensuring your safety and removing distractions that would prevent you from doing your job effectively. It was too much, too generous, too dangerous, too perfect. I need time to think, Elena said. You have until 6 p.m. tonight. Dante handed her a business card with a phone number written on the back in neat script. Call this number with your decision. If you say yes, a car will pick you up tomorrow morning at 8. You'll move into the house immediately. Tomorrow? That's fast. I know. His expression was steady. But Sophia is expecting you. I told her this morning that the nice lady from the restaurant might come stay with us. She smiled. Elena. A real smile. I can't remember the last time I saw that. The words broke something in Elena's chest. What if I say no? Then I respect your decision. Ensure your grandmother receives the medical support she needs regardless. And Sophia goes back to silence. Dante's jaw tightened. And I go back to failing my daughter every single day. Elena looked at this man, powerful, controlled, dangerous, and saw the cracks in his armor. A father drowning in grief and helplessness, grasping at the first lifeline that had appeared in 11 months. 6 p.m., she said quietly. I'll call you by 6. Marco drove her home in silence. Elena stared at the contract in her lap, at the numbers that could change everything, at the signature line that felt like the edge of a cliff. When she walked into the apartment, her grandmother was waiting. Well? Elena sat down heavily on the couch. He offered me a job taking care of his daughter, $200,000 a year, full benefits, room and board. Rosa's eyebrows rose. And the catch? His world is dangerous. I'd be a target. He'd provide security, but Elena's hands twisted together. It's real danger, Abuela, the kind that requires bodyguards. And the debts? He knows about them. He'd make them disappear. Rosa was quiet for a long moment, her weathered hands folded over her rosary. This man, Dante Castellano, what did your instincts tell you about him? Elena thought about Dante's expression when Sophia spoke, the raw hope in his eyes, the way he'd admitted to failing his daughter with such naked vulnerability, the careful respect in how he'd presented the offer, acknowledging the danger without minimizing it. I think he's desperate, Elena said slowly. I think he'd do anything to help his daughter. And I think, she paused, I think he's honest about what he is and what he's offering. Then you already know your answer. Do I? Rosa leaned forward, taking Elena's hands. Mija, you've been drowning for 3 years, working yourself to exhaustion, living in fear, carrying debts that weren't yours to carry. This man is offering you a life raft. Will it be dangerous? Perhaps. But you're already in danger. At least this way, you have protection, you have purpose, and you have a chance to help a little girl who needs you. What if I fail? What if Sophia doesn't get better, and he blames me? What if she does get better, and you save each other? Rosa squeezed her hands. You cannot live your whole life afraid of what might go wrong, Elena. Sometimes you must have faith that things might go right. At 5:47 p.m., Elena called the number on Dante's card. He answered on the first ring. Elena, I'll take the job, she said before courage could fail her. I'll help Sophia. The exhale on the other end was barely audible, but Elena heard it relief, hope, something that sounded like a prayer being answered. Thank you, Dante said quietly. The car will be there tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pack what you need. Everything else will be provided. Dante? Yes? Don't make me regret this. I won't, he promised. I swear to you, Elena, I won't. After she hung up, Elena sat in the darkening apartment, watching Chicago's lights flicker to life beyond her window. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, she'd step into a world she didn't understand, with dangers she couldn't predict, to help a little girl she'd met once. Tomorrow, she'd become part of the Castellano family. And somewhere in the city, in places Elena couldn't see, people were already taking notice. People who watched Dante Castellano for weaknesses. People who'd soon learn that he'd brought someone new into his inner circle. Someone vulnerable. Someone who could be used. But tonight, Elena allowed herself one moment of hope. One moment of believing that maybe, just maybe, she could help a grieving child speak again. That maybe saving Sofia might somehow save her too. Outside, a black sedan parked across the street. The driver made a phone call. Castellano hired someone new, a woman from one of his restaurants. She's moving into the house tomorrow. On the other end, Vincent Caruso smiled. Is that so? Tell me everything. The Castellano estate wasn't in Chicago proper, it was 30 minutes north in Lake Forest, behind iron gates and walls covered in ivy. Marco drove Elena through tree-lined streets where mansions sat like sentinels, each one more imposing than the last. Then the gates opened. The house was modern but warm glass and stone and wood, designed to blend with the forest around it rather than dominate it. 3 stories, with balconies overlooking gardens that probably looked incredible in summer. Now, in late October, they were preparing for winter sleep. Holy, Elena caught herself. This is where Sofia lives? Mr. Castellano wanted her to grow up somewhere beautiful, Marco said. Somewhere safe. He pulled up to the front entrance where Dante stood waiting, dressed casually in dark jeans and a charcoal sweater. Somehow, he looked even more intimidating without the suit, less businessman, more something Elena couldn't quite name. Welcome, Dante said as Marco retrieved her single suitcase from the trunk. I'll show you around. Inside was nothing like she expected. The foyer opened into a great room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the forest, but instead of cold minimalism, it felt lived in. Books stacked on tables, a child's drawing taped to the refrigerator, framed, photographs everywhere, mostly of Sofia, some including a beautiful woman with blonde hair who must have been her mother. Sofia's in the playroom, Dante said, leading Elena down a hallway. I told her you were coming. She's been watching the driveway for an hour. Is she excited or nervous? Both. He glanced at her. Like me. They reached a door painted soft yellow. Dante knocked gently. Sofia? Elena is here. The door opened slowly. Sofia stood in the doorway, wearing leggings and an oversized sweater, her blonde hair in 2 braids. Her eyes were huge and uncertain, but when she saw Elena, something shifted. Hi, Sofia, Elena said softly, crouching down to her level like she had at the restaurant. Remember me? From Rossini's? You showed me the boats on the river. Sofia nodded. Her lips moved, forming words, but no sound came out. That's okay, Elena assured her. You don't have to talk if you don't want to. But I'm really happy to see you again. Your house is beautiful. The little girl's hand reached out, gripping the edge of Elena's sleeve. Not pulling, just holding on, like she needed to make sure Elena was real. Would you like to show me your playroom? Elena asked. Sofia nodded again and tugged gently on her sleeve. Elena let herself be led into a space that was clearly designed with love. Bookshelves full of picture books, a play kitchen, art supplies organized by color, windows with cushioned seats perfect for reading. This is amazing, Elena said honestly. Do you like to draw? Sofia pointed to a small easel with a painting in progress. It was surprisingly sophisticated for a 6-year-old, swirls of blue and gold that could have been water or sky or dreams. That's beautiful. Is it the river? Like we saw at the restaurant? Sofia's face lit up. She nodded enthusiastically and pointed to herself, then at Elena, then at the painting. You painted this for me? Elena's throat tightened. Sofia, that's so special. Thank you. The little girl smiled, a real, genuine smile that transformed her whole face, and Elena understood immediately why Dante had hired her. This child was trapped somewhere inside herself, locked away by grief or trauma or fear. But she was still there, still capable of joy and connection. She just needed someone patient enough to wait for her. I'll let you two get acquainted, Dante said from the doorway. His voice was rough with emotion. Elena, your room is ready whenever you need it. 3rd door on the left upstairs. If you need anything, we'll be fine, Elena said, watching Sofia pull out a puzzle. Take your time. But Dante didn't leave immediately. He stood in the doorway, watching his daughter interact with this stranger who'd somehow broken through walls no one else could scale. And Elena saw everything in his expression: hope and fear and desperate gratitude. An hour later, after Sophia had shown her every toy and book and drawing, a woman appeared in the doorway. She was older, maybe 60, with kind eyes and laugh lines. "I'm Mrs. Chen," she introduced herself. "The house manager. Mr. Castellano asked me to show you to your room and help you get settled." "Thank you." Elena stood, her knees stiff from sitting on the floor. She looked at Sophia. "I'm going to put my things away, but I'll be back soon, okay?" Sophia nodded, then did something unexpected. She waved a small, shy gesture that made Elena's heart squeeze. Her room was on the 3rd floor, and it was bigger than her entire apartment in Pilsen. King-sized bed with a plush duvet, private bathroom with a tub that could fit 3 people, a sitting area with an armchair and reading lamp, windows overlooking the forest. Mr. Castellano had everything prepared. "Mrs. Chen said, "Toiletries, clothes in your size if you need them. Anything else, just ask. Breakfast is at 7:30, lunch at noon, dinner at 6. Sophia eats with her father whenever possible. You're welcome to join them or take meals separately, whatever feels right." "This is too much," Elena said, running her hand over the impossibly soft bedding. "I don't need." "Mr. Castellano believes in taking care of the people who take care of his daughter." Mrs. Chen's expression was knowing. "You'll learn that about him. Loyalty goes both ways in this house." After Mrs. Chen left, Elena stood at the window, watching the forest darken as evening fell. Somewhere beyond these trees was Chicago, the apartment in Pilsen, the restaurant where she'd been fired, the life she'd been barely surviving. Here, in this beautiful house with a grieving child and a desperate father, everything felt surreal, like she'd stepped into someone else's story. Her phone buzzed. The debt collector. "Time's up. Where's my money?" Elena's hands shook as she typed. "The debt is handled. Don't contact me again." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, "We'll see about that." A knock on her door made her jump. Dante stood in the hallway, changed into comfortable clothes, his hair slightly damp like he'd just showered. "Sorry to disturb you," he said. "I wanted to check, is everything acceptable?" "It's perfect. Too perfect. There's no such thing when it comes to Sophia's care." He leaned against the doorframe, and Elena noticed the exhaustion in his posture. "Anthony, my lawyer, will handle the situation with the debt collectors. They'll receive payment tomorrow and a clear message that you're no longer to be contacted. If they ignore that message," his jaw tightened, "they'll regret it. I don't want anyone hurt because of me. Then they shouldn't threaten people under my protection." Dante's voice was flat. "This is part of the agreement, Elena. You focus on Sophia. I handle everything else. That seems like an unequal arrangement. You clearly haven't spent enough time with my daughter yet." Something that might have been humor flickered in his eyes. "She's already asked me 3 times when you're coming back downstairs. That's the most she's communicated in months. Trust me, you're earning your salary." Elena smiled despite her nerves. "She's incredible. So smart and observant. She gets that from her mother." Pain crossed Dante's face, there and gone so quickly Elena almost missed it. Maria was brilliant. PhD in art history, spoke 5 languages, could read Sophia like a book. He was quiet for a moment. "I don't have that gift. I'm too blunt, too analytical. Sophia and I, we love each other, but sometimes I think we don't speak the same language." "You speak the most important language," Elena said. "Love. She knows you'd do anything for her." "Would I?" Dante's voice turned bitter. "I've hired the best specialists money can buy, given her every advantage, every opportunity, and none of it worked. Until a waitress I'd never met showed her kindness over a bowl of soup and suddenly she speaks. Maybe that's exactly what she needed. Not more expertise, just more kindness." Dante was quiet for a long moment, studying her. "I looked into your background, more than just the surface information." Elena stiffened. "And? Your mother died when you were 16. Father struggled with gambling addiction. You put yourself through 2 years of college while working full-time. Dropped out to care for your grandmother when she got sick." His voice was neutral, factual. "You've been taking care of people your whole life, Elena, at significant personal cost. That's what family does. That's what you do." "Not everyone." Dante pushed off the doorframe. "Dinner is in an hour. Sophia wants you there. She's been setting your place at the table herself." He left before Elena could respond. She stood in her beautiful room, in this beautiful house, and felt the weight of everything shifting beneath her feet. Downstairs, she could hear Sophia's laughter, actual laughter, as she played with something that squeaked. The sound was light and pure and filled with uncomplicated joy. Elena had promised to help this child, to be patient, to be kind, to be present. What she hadn't expected was how quickly Sophia would start helping her too. Should I continue with part 3? Retry JCS part 3. The Reckoning. 3 weeks passed like a dream Elena kept waiting to wake from. Every morning, she opened her eyes in that impossibly comfortable bed, convinced she'd find herself back in the Pilsen apartment, with its broken radiator and thin walls. Instead, sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking forests that had turned brilliant gold and crimson with late October. Every morning, Sophia knocked on her door at exactly 7:15, already dressed, her blonde hair neatly braided Mrs. Chen's work. The little girl would stand in the doorway, not speaking, but her eyes asking the same question. Are you still here? Are you real? And every morning, Elena would smile and say, Good morning, Sophia. Ready for breakfast? The progress was subtle but undeniable. Sophia still didn't speak often. Words came in whispers, sometimes just mouthed silently, but she communicated more, pointing, gesturing, using the picture cards her therapist had made. More importantly, she smiled. She laughed. She played with an easiness that Dante said he hadn't seen since before Maria died. Watch this, Mrs. Chen said one afternoon, standing beside Elena in the kitchen doorway. In the great room, Sophia was painting at her easel while Dante worked on his laptop nearby. She'd been quiet for 20 minutes, focused on her art. Then, barely audible, Papa. Dante's head snapped up immediately. Yes, Tesoro? Sophia pointed to her painting, a garden full of flowers in impossible colors. Pretty? Beautiful. His voice was thick. The most beautiful painting I've ever seen. Sophia smiled and returned to her work. Dante's eyes found Elena across the room, and the gratitude in them was almost painful to witness. That night, after Sophia went to bed, he found Elena in the library. She'd discovered it on her second day, a room she'd initially thought was just for show, but the worn spines and dog-eared pages proved these books were actually read. You've made yourself at home. Dante stood in the doorway, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up. It was how he looked in the evenings, after shedding the armor of his public persona. I hope that's okay, Mrs. Chen said. It's more than okay. He moved into the room, pouring 2 glasses of wine from a decanter on the side table. He offered her one. I want you to feel like this is your home, Elena. Not just a workplace. She accepted the glass, their fingers brushing briefly. That's a dangerous line to blur. Why? Because homes are permanent. Jobs are temporary. Dante sat in the chair opposite hers, the fireplace crackling between them. Outside, November rain drummed against the windows. What if this didn't have to be temporary? Elena's heart skipped. Dante, I'm not talking about anything inappropriate, he said quickly. I'm talking about long-term employment. Sophia is thriving with you here. You're good for her. I don't want that to end because of an arbitrary contract length. The contract is for 6 months. Then we'll renegotiate at 6 months, and again at a year, and again whenever necessary. His dark eyes held hers. Unless you want to leave? No. The word came out more forcefully than Elena intended. I don't want to leave. Sophia, she's special. Being here, helping her. She struggled to articulate the feeling. It's the first time in years I've felt like I'm doing something that matters. You matter. Dante's voice was quiet. Not just what you do. You. The air between them suddenly felt charged. Elena became hyper-aware of everything. The warmth of the fire, the rain outside, the way Dante was looking at her like she was a puzzle. He couldn't quite solve but desperately wanted to understand. Her phone shattered the moment. It buzzed insistently on the side table. Elena glanced at the screen and her blood went cold. Unknown number. Payment received. Consider your father's debt settled. But there are other debts, Elena. Ones that can't be paid with money. Be careful who you trust. Elena? Dante leaned forward. What's wrong? She showed him the text, her hand trembling slightly. His expression went from concerned to lethal in seconds. When did this arrive? Just now. Dante pulled out his own phone, typing rapidly. This number, it's not the same collectors I paid off. Someone else is contacting you. Other debts? I don't have other debts. It's a threat. Dante stood, pacing with barely controlled anger. Someone's trying to intimidate you, to make you afraid. He stopped, turning to face her. Did anything unusual happen today? Anyone approach you? Follow you? Elena thought back. I took Sophia to the park this morning. Marco was with us the whole time. There were other parents, other children. Nothing seemed. She paused. Wait, there was a woman. She was sitting on a bench, watching us. When I looked at her, she smiled and left. I thought it was nothing. Describe her. 40s maybe. Dark hair, expensive coat. She had this way of looking at Sophia that felt. Elena searched for the word. Calculated. Like she was taking notes. Dante's jaw clenched. Did she speak to you? No. Just watched for maybe 5 minutes, then left. He made another call, stepping into the hallway. Elena heard his voice, low and intense. Pull security footage from Maple Park this morning. Woman, 40s, dark hair, expensive clothing. I want to know who she is within the hour. When he returned, his expression was carefully controlled, but Elena saw the fear underneath. This is exactly what I warned you about. My enemies, they notice vulnerabilities. They exploit them. I'm not vulnerable. Everyone is vulnerable when they care about something. Dante moved closer. And you care about Sophia. That makes you a target. Then increase security. But I'm not leaving. I'm not asking you to leave. His voice softened. I'm asking you to be careful. To trust no one outside this house. To tell me immediately if anything feels wrong. Elena stood, meeting his eyes. I can handle myself, Dante. I grew up in Pilsen. I know how to recognize danger. This isn't street crime. This is organized, strategic, patient. He was close enough now that Elena could see the fear in his dark eyes, not for himself, but for Sophia, and she realized with a start, for her, these people don't threaten, they act. And by the time you realize you're in danger, then teach me, Elena interrupted. Teach me what to watch for, how to protect myself. But don't treat me like I'm helpless. Dante stared at her for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled small, but genuine. You're right. You're not helpless. I'm sorry. I just need to understand the rules of your world. Rule 1. Trust is earned slowly and lost instantly. Dante counted on his fingers. Rule 2. Everyone has an agenda. Figure out what it is before you give them anything. Rule 3. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't rationalize it away. And Rule 4? His expression turned serious. If you're ever in danger, call me. Not security, not the police. Me. No matter what time, where you are, what's happening, you call me. Why you specifically? Because there are things I can do that others can't. He didn't elaborate, and Elena didn't ask. Some answers she wasn't ready to hear. Her phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. Such a pretty little girl. It would be a shame if something happened to her. Elena's hand started shaking. Dante took the phone from her gently and read the message. His face went completely blank, the kind of calm that was more terrifying than rage. Marco, he said into his phone, his voice deadly quiet. Increase security around Sophia to level 4. No one gets near her without my explicit approval. And find out who's sending these messages. I want a name by morning. He hung up and looked at Elena. You're moving to the room next to Sophia's. Starting tonight. Dante, I don't think, this isn't a request. His voice was steel. Someone is threatening my daughter. Until we know who and why, you stay close to her. 24-hour protection. You really think someone would hurt a 6-year-old? I think people have done worse for less. Dante's expression was haunted. Maria died because someone wanted to hurt me. They used her as a message. I won't lose Sophia the same way. The words hung in the air between them. Elena finally understood the depth of Dante's fear. It wasn't theoretical or cautious. It was born from brutal experience. I'll move my things tonight, Elena said quietly. Thank you. Dante's shoulders dropped slightly, some of the tension releasing. I know this isn't what you signed up for. I signed up to help Sophia. This is part of that. He looked at her for a long moment, something complicated moving behind his eyes. You're either very brave or very foolish. Maybe both. That night, Elena lay in her new room, smaller but right next to Sophia's, with a connecting door left slightly ajar. She could hear the little girl's soft breathing, peaceful in sleep. Her phone buzzed one more time. Sleep well, Elena. Tomorrow is going to be interesting. She deleted the message but couldn't delete the fear that came with it. Down the hall, Dante sat in his study with Anthony and Marco, security footage playing on multiple screens. There. Anthony froze the image. That's her. The woman from the park, captured perfectly by street cameras. Dark hair, expensive coat, but now they could see her face clearly. Her name is Isabella Romano, Anthony said, pulling up a file. She works for Vincent Caruso. Dante's expression went cold. Caruso. Of course. He's been quiet since you rejected his offer to buy the waterfront properties, Marco added. We thought he'd moved on to other targets. Vincent Caruso doesn't move on. He escalates. Dante studied Isabella's face on the screen. What's his angle? Why threaten Sophia now? Maybe he thinks you've found a new weakness, Anthony suggested, glancing at Dante meaningfully. Someone you care about protecting. Elena. She appeared 3 weeks ago, moved into your house, spends all day with your daughter. From the outside, it looks... I know how it looks. Dante's voice was sharp. But what it looks like and what it is are different things. Are they? Anthony's tone was carefully neutral. Dante didn't answer. He was watching the footage of Elena at the park, the way she'd positioned herself between Sophia and Isabella without even realizing it, the way she'd kept Sophia close, protective and natural. Caruso will come after her, Marco said. If he thinks she matters to you, he'll use her. Then we make sure she's protected. Dante stood. Double the security detail. Background check everyone who comes within 50 feet of this property, and find out exactly what Caruso is planning. After they left, Dante stood at his window, looking toward the wing where Elena slept in the room next to his daughter. 2 people who'd stumbled into his life and somehow become essential in a matter of weeks. His phone rang, a number he recognized. He answered without speaking. Castellano. Vincent Caruso's voice was smooth, amused. I hope I'm not calling too late. What do you want, Vincent? Just checking in. I heard you've made some interesting hiring decisions lately. A new caregiver for little Sophia? Dante's hand tightened on the phone. Stay away from my family. I'm not interested in your family, Dante. I'm interested in our business arrangement. The one you so rudely declined. Vincent's voice hardened. The waterfront properties, I'm making one final offer. Sell them to me, and everyone stays safe. Refuse and what? You threaten a child? That's low even for you. I don't threaten children. I simply remove obstacles. Vincent laughed. Like that pretty server you've got living in your house? Elena Vasquez, right? From Pilsen? Grandmother with diabetes? Father who made some very poor financial decisions? If you touch her, you'll what? This isn't a negotiation, Dante. This is me being generous. You have 1 week to accept my offer. After that, Vincent paused. Well, accidents happen. Especially to people who don't have your kind of protection. The line went dead. Dante stood in the darkness, rage and fear warring inside him. Caruso had drawn the lines clearly: sell the properties, or watch the people he cared about suffer. A year ago, the choice would have been simple. Dante would have handled Caruso quietly, permanently, without hesitation. But that was before Sophia started speaking again. Before he'd promised Elena he wasn't a murderer. Before he'd started hoping that maybe, just maybe, he could be something more than what his name demanded. He made another call. Anthony, I need you to do something that stays completely off the books. How far off the books? Deep enough that it never surfaces. Dante's voice was cold. I want Vincent Caruso watched. Every move, every contact, every transaction. And I want options. Legal ones first, but also other solutions. Whatever becomes necessary. Because Dante Castellano was many things: a businessman, a father, a man trying to be better than his legacy. But he was also someone who protected what was his. And whether she knew it or not, Elena Vasquez had become his to protect. The attack came on a Thursday afternoon. Elena was at the Children's Museum with Sophia, Marco trailing them at a discreet distance. It was supposed to be safe public, crowded, multiple security cameras. Sophia was excited, bouncing on her toes as they explored an exhibit about butterflies. Look, Sophia whispered, pointing at a monarch in the display case. Pretty. So pretty. Elena crouched beside her. Did you know butterflies taste with their feet? Sophia's eyes went wide. She didn't speak, but her expression said, Really? So clearly that Elena laughed. Really? They land on flowers and... Elena Vasquez? She turned to find a woman approaching mid-30s, professional attire, press badge hanging from her neck. Behind her, a man with a camera. I'm Rachel Morrison from Chicago Daily News, the woman said, her smile not reaching her eyes. I was hoping you could answer a few questions about your relationship with Dante Castellano. Marco moved immediately, stepping between them. No comment. Please step back. Is it true you were fired from Rossini's and Castellano hired you within 24 hours? Rachel pressed forward, undeterred. What exactly is the nature of your employment with him? We're leaving. Elena took Sophia's hand, but the little girl had frozen, her eyes wide with fear at the sudden tension. The camera flashed. Once, twice, 3 times, capturing Sophia's frightened face, Elena's protective stance, Marco's threatening posture. Some people are saying you're more than just an employee, Rachel continued, following them toward the exit. That you're living in his house, sharing meals with his family. How would you characterize your relationship with Mr. Castellano? No comment, Elena repeated, her heart hammering. Sophia's hand was trembling in hers. They made it to the parking lot, but Rachel wasn't giving up. What about the rumors that you're romantically involved? That Sophia calls you? Enough. Marco's voice was deadly. You've been warned. Leave now, or I involve security. This is public property, and that's a child you're harassing. Marco pulled out his phone. I have connections with CPS. 1 call and they'll investigate how you're traumatizing minors for a story. Rachel's smile faltered. She stepped back, but the camera kept rolling. Mr. Castellano will be very interested in this footage. Thank you for your time, Miss Vasquez. In the car, Sophia was crying silently, tears streaming down her face. Elena held her close, her own hands shaking with adrenaline and rage. I'm so sorry, sweetheart, she murmured. Those people were rude, but they're gone now. You're safe. But Sophia was rocking slightly, her breathing rapid and shallow. Elena recognized a panic attack building. Marco, how fast can we get home? 15 minutes. Make it 10, she called Dante. He answered immediately. Elena? What happened? We were ambushed by a reporter at the museum. Sophia's having a panic attack. We're headed home now. I'm already on my way. She heard car doors, an engine starting. Put me on speaker. Elena did. Dante's voice filled the car, calm and steady. Sophia Tesoro, can you hear me? A small, choked sound. I need you to breathe with me, baby. In through your nose, count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now out through your mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sophia tried, her breathing ragged but following the rhythm. Good girl. Again. In for 4, out for 4. You're doing so well. By the time they pulled through the gates, Sophia's breathing had steadied slightly. Dante was already there, parked in the driveway. He opened the car door before it fully stopped and lifted Sophia into his arms. I've got you, he murmured against her hair. You're safe. Papa's got you. He carried her inside without another word, Elena following. Mrs. Chen appeared instantly, her expression concerned. Her room, Dante said, lights low, curtains closed, and call Dr. Peterson not for medication, just to check her. In Sophia's room, Dante sat in the rocking chair with his daughter curled against his chest. He rocked slowly, humming something soft in Italian. Elena stood in the doorway, feeling helpless. After 20 minutes, Sophia's breathing had normalized. She was still trembling, but the worst had passed. Stay with her, Dante said to Elena, his voice rough. I need to make some calls. He stood carefully, settling Sophia on her bed. The little girl immediately reached for Elena, who climbed onto the bed beside her, letting Sophia curl into her side. I'm not going anywhere, Elena promised. I'll stay right here. Sophia's small hand gripped Elena's shirt, and slowly, eventually, she fell asleep. Downstairs, Dante was on the phone with Anthony, his voice lethal. I want to know who tipped off that reporter. Someone told them exactly where we'd be, exactly when. This wasn't coincidence. I'm already looking into it, Anthony replied. But Dante, there's something else. That footage, Rachel Morrison works for a paper owned by Caruso. This was coordinated. He's escalating. He's testing your defenses. Seeing how you react, where the weak points are. Anthony paused. The question is, how do you want to respond? Dante looked up at the ceiling, toward the room where his daughter slept, traumatized again by his world's cruelty, where Elena held her, protecting her, being exactly what Sophia needed, despite the danger it put her in. Set up a meeting, Dante said quietly. With Caruso, tomorrow night, neutral location. Are you sure that's wise? I'm sure that this ends before anyone else I care about gets hurt. After hanging up, Dante returned upstairs. Elena was still on Sophia's bed, the little girl asleep against her shoulder. Elena's eyes were closed too, exhausted. "Elena," he whispered. She opened her eyes. "Is she okay?" "Thanks to you." Dante sat on the edge of the bed. What happened at the museum that was planned? Someone wanted Sophia scared. Caruso? Almost certainly. He looked at his sleeping daughter, then at Elena. "I'm meeting with him tomorrow night. I'm going to end this." "How?" "However, I have to." His expression was grim. "But I need you to promise me something." "What?" "If anything happens to me, if this goes wrong, you take Sophia and you run. Anthony has documents prepared, money set aside, safe locations. You get her out of Chicago and you don't look back. Dante, promise me." His voice was intense. "Whatever else happens, Sophia stays safe. That's all that matters." Elena looked at this man, powerful, dangerous, desperate, asking her to protect his daughter if he couldn't. The weight of that trust was staggering. "I promise," she said quietly. "But you're coming back. You hear me? You don't get to make me care about both of you and then disappear." Dante's expression softened. "You care about both of us?" "Of course I do." Elena's voice was fierce. "Sophia is. She's everything good in the world. And you?" She stopped, not sure how to finish that sentence. "And I'm what?" "You're trying so hard to be better than what you were taught to be." "That matters, Dante. It matters to me." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and touched her face gently. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone, and Elena's breath caught. "When this is over," he said softly, "when Sophia is safe and Caruso is handled, we're going to talk about what this is between us." "What is it?" "I don't know yet. But I know it's not nothing." He left before Elena could respond, his footsteps fading down the hallway. Sophia stirred slightly, mumbling in her sleep, and Elena held her closer. Tomorrow night Dante would meet with Vincent Caruso. Tomorrow night everything would change, and Elena could only hope they'd all survive what came next. The warehouse was in Little Italy, neutral territory claimed by neither Castellano nor Caruso. Dante arrived with Anthony and Marco, his mind cold and focused despite the anxiety churning. Underneath, Vincent Caruso was already there, flanked by his own men. He was younger than Dante expected, mid-40s, expensive suit, the kind of smile that never touched his eyes. "Castellano, thank you for accepting my invitation." "This isn't a social call, Vincent. What do you want?" "Straight to business. I respect that." Caruso lit a cigarette. "I want the waterfront properties. You know this. I've made generous offers. You've refused. Now we're at an impasse. We're at an impasse because you threatened my daughter." "I didn't threaten anyone. I simply pointed out that accidents happen." Caruso's smile widened. "Like what happened at the museum today. Unfortunate business. Reporters ambushing a child. Someone should really do something about media ethics." Dante's hands clenched. "You orchestrated that." "I orchestrated nothing, but I may have mentioned to certain journalists that Dante Castellano's personal life might be newsworthy. How you hire attractive young women and have them live in your home. How quickly you fired your entire previous staff for this one particular server." Caruso exhaled smoke. "People talk, Dante. I just help them talk louder. Leave Elena out of this." "Ah, Elena." Caruso's eyes glittered. Pretty girl, tragic backstory, perfect target for sympathy or manipulation. "Tell me, is she in on your schemes, or is she just another pawn?" "She's under my protection. For now." Caruso stepped closer. "But protection only works if you're strong enough to enforce it. And lately, Dante, you've been looking weak. Hiring soft-hearted women, playing house with your daughter, trying to be some kind of legitimate businessman." He laughed. "You can't escape what you are, what your family is, so stop pretending and give me what I want. The properties aren't for sale." "Then we have a problem." Caruso's voice dropped. "Because I will get those properties, one way or another. And if you won't sell them willingly, I'll simply wait until circumstances force your hand. A tragedy, perhaps. An accident. Something that makes you realize you can't protect everyone." Dante moved before Anthony could stop him, grabbing Caruso by the collar and slamming him against a support beam. "You touch Sophia or Elena, and I will destroy everything you've ever built. Your businesses, your reputation, your family, all of it burns." Caruso didn't look frightened. He looked delighted. "There he is. The real Dante Castellano. For a moment, I thought you'd gone completely soft. I'm giving you one chance to walk away from this, and I'm giving you 1 week. Caruso straightened his collar after Dante released him. Sell me the properties, or I start removing the people you care about, one by one, starting with the girl who thinks she can save your broken daughter. He left, his men following. The warehouse fell silent except for Dante's ragged breathing. That went well, Anthony said dryly. He's not going to stop. No, he's not. Anthony pulled out his tablet. But I have something you need to see. We've been investigating Caruso's operations. There's evidence of fraud, money laundering, connections to trafficking, enough to put him away for life. You want to involve law enforcement? I want to give you options. Anthony's expression was serious. You can handle this the old way, make him disappear. Send a message that no one threatens Castellanos. Or you can handle it the new way, turn over evidence, let the justice system work, prove that you're not what your name says you are. Dante looked at his consigliere, then at Marco. What do you think? I think Elena made you promise you weren't a murderer, Marco said quietly. I think Sofia is learning what kind of man her father is, and I think you have a chance to be someone different, someone better. And if the legal system fails, if Caruso walks, then you handle it, Anthony said simply. But try it the right way first. For Sofia, for Elena, for yourself. Dante was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. Give the evidence to the FBI, but have contingencies ready if it doesn't work. Always do. They drove back to Lake Forest in silence. Dante's phone rang as they pulled through the gates. Elena? Dante? Sofia woke up asking for you. She's scared. She won't say why, but she keeps signing, "Where's Papa?" I'm home. Coming up now. He took the stairs 2 at a time. In Sofia's room, Elena sat on the bed with his daughter curled in her lap. Sofia's face was tear-streaked, her breathing uneven. Tesoro, I'm here. Dante knelt beside the bed. What's wrong? Sofia's small hands moved in the sign language her therapist had taught her. Bad dream. You disappeared. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. Promise? I promise. Dante gathered her into his arms. Nothing is going to take me away from you. Nothing. But even as he said it, Dante knew it was a promise he might not be able to keep. Because Vincent Caruso had declared war, and in war, there were always casualties. He looked at Elena over Sofia's head, and something passed between them, understanding, fear, determination. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. Stay, Sofia whispered. The word so quiet Dante almost missed it, but she was looking at Elena. I'm not going anywhere either, Elena promised. We're both staying, sweetheart, right here. Sofia nodded, some of the tension leaving her small body. She fell asleep eventually, safe between the 2 people who loved her most. And Dante realized with startling clarity that somewhere in the past 3 weeks, Elena had stopped being just an employee, just someone he hired to help his daughter. She'd become family. The question was whether he could keep her alive long enough to tell her that. The FBI arrived on Tuesday morning. Elena was making breakfast with Sofia pancakes shaped like butterflies, which had become their tradition when 2 black SUVs pulled up to the house. She watched through the window as Dante met them on the driveway, his posture rigid but controlled. Who's that? Sofia whispered, pressing against Elena's side. Just some people who need to talk to your papa about work. Elena kept her voice light, but her heart was racing. Let's finish these pancakes, okay? He'll be back soon. But Dante was gone for 3 hours. When he finally returned, his expression was unreadable. He found Elena in the library, where she'd been trying to focus on a book while Sofia napped upstairs. The FBI has enough evidence to arrest Caruso, Dante said without preamble. They're moving tonight. By tomorrow morning, he'll be in federal custody facing 37 counts including fraud, racketeering, and money laundering. Elena released a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. That's good. That means Sofia is safe. For now. Dante moved to the window, his shoulders tense. But Caruso has connections, lawyers who can work miracles. There's a chance, a small one, that he could make bail or cut a deal. What happens then? Then we have contingency plans. His voice was flat. Plans I'd prefer not to use. Elena stood and crossed to him, touching his arm gently. You did this the right way. You chose not to become what people expect you to be. I chose to trust a system that's failed people before. You chose to be the kind of father Sofia deserves. Elena's voice was firm. The kind who solves problems without violence. The kind who shows her there are good ways and bad ways to handle conflict. That matters, Dante. He turned to face her, and the exhaustion in his eyes was devastating. What if I can't protect her? What if doing it the right way gets her hurt? Then you'll handle it. But you tried. That's what she'll remember. Not that her father was powerful or feared, but that he tried to be good. Dante's hand came up, cupping her face with unexpected tenderness. When did you become so wise? I've been faking it pretty well, haven't I? Elena tried to smile, but her heart was hammering at his touch. Elena, he stopped, seeming to struggle with words. After this is over, after Caruso is handled and Sophia is safe, I need to tell you something. Tell me now. Now isn't the right time. There might not be a later. The words hung between them, heavy with truth. In Dante's world, tomorrow was never guaranteed. I care about you, he said finally, his voice low. More than I should. More than is probably wise. You walked into my life to help my daughter, and somehow you made me remember what it feels like to hope for something beyond just survival. Elena's breath caught. Dante, I'm not asking for anything. I know this situation is complicated. You work for me, you live in my house, you care for my daughter. There are power dynamics and professional boundaries and 100 reasons this shouldn't. He shook his head. I just needed you to know. Before something happens that prevents me from saying it. Nothing is going to happen to you. You can't promise that. Watch me. Elena's hand covered his where it still rested against her face. I care about you too. Both of you. You're not just my employer, Dante. She struggled to find words for something she barely understood herself. You're someone I trust. Someone I want to protect as much as you protect me. And that terrifies me, but I'm not running from it. Dante's eyes searched hers. You should run. You should take the money you've earned and get as far from my world as possible. Is that what you want? No. The word was raw. God help me, no. I want you to stay. I want Sophia to keep smiling the way she does when you're around. I want dinners where we feel like a family instead of fragments of one. He stopped, something vulnerable crossing his face. I want things I have no right to want. What if I want them too? The question hung in the air between them. Then Dante's phone shattered the moment. Castellano. His voice shifted immediately to business mode. He listened, his expression darkening. When? How many? Understood. Full lockdown protocol. I'm on my way. He hung up and looked at Elena. Caruso found out about the FBI investigation. He's going to ground, but not before making one last move. We just got intel that he's sending people here. Elena's blood went cold. Here? To the house? They're coming for Sophia. Or you, or both. Dante was already moving, pulling out his phone to make more calls. Marco is activating full security. FBI is sending a team, but they're 20 minutes out. We need to get you and Sophia to the safe room. The what? Now, Elena. No questions. They ran upstairs. Sophia was awake, sitting up in bed with her stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. She took one look at their faces and started crying silently. It's okay, baby, Dante said, scooping her up. We're just going to play a game, remember? The one we practiced? Sophia's eyes were huge, terrified. She knew this wasn't a game. Dante led them to his study and pressed something under his desk. A section of bookshelf swung inward, revealing a reinforced door with a keypad. He entered a code, and it opened to a small room, maybe 12 by 12, with monitors showing security feeds, shelves of supplies, and thick walls that probably could withstand anything short of explosives. Stay here, Dante ordered, ushering them inside. Lock the door behind me. The code is... You're not going out there alone. Elena grabbed his arm. I have Marco and 6 trained security personnel. We can handle this. Dante, please. His voice cracked slightly. Please just keep Sophia safe. That's all I need. If something happens to me, there's a panel in the back wall. It opens to an escape tunnel that leads to the garage. Anthony knows to get you out. Nothing's going to happen. To you. If it does. He pulled Elena close suddenly, kissing her forehead with desperate intensity. If it does, remember that you saved us. Both of us. You gave Sophia her voice back and you gave me. His voice broke. You gave me hope. He pulled back, looked at his daughter one more time, and left. The bookshelf swung shut behind him. Elena heard the locks engage. She and Sophia were alone in the safe room, surrounded by monitors showing armed men taking positions throughout the house and grounds. Elena? Sophia's voice was small, frightened. Yes, sweetheart. Is Papa going to die? The question was so blunt, so raw, that Elena almost lied. Almost said, of course not, or everything will be fine. But Sophia deserved truth, even terrible truth. Your papa is very strong, Elena said carefully, pulling Sophia into her lap. And he has people protecting him. But yes, there's danger. Bad people are trying to hurt us. Like they hurt Mama? Elena's throat closed. You remember that? I remember the loud noises, the way Papa screamed. Sophia was trembling. I remember Mama didn't come home. I'm so sorry, Sophia. Are you going to leave too? The little girl looked up at her with eyes too old for 6 years. Everyone always leaves. I'm not leaving. Elena held her tighter. I promise you, Sophia. Whatever happens out there, I'm staying right here with you. Even if Papa... She couldn't finish the sentence. Even then. Elena's voice was fierce. You're stuck with me, kiddo. For as long as you want me. Sophia buried her face in Elena's shoulder and cried real, loud sobs that she'd probably been holding in for 2 years. Elena held her and watched the monitors, her heart in her throat as she tracked Dante's movements through the house. On the screens, she saw them coming. 4 SUVs, moving fast down the private road. They crashed through the front gates, apparently already breached. Men in tactical gear poured out, weapons drawn. Marco and Dante's security team met them at the perimeter. The sound of gunfire crackled through the monitor's speakers. Sophia flinched with each shot, her hands over her ears. Don't look, Elena said, turning Sophia away from the screens. But she couldn't look away. She watched Dante move through his house like he'd done this before. Controlled, precise, deadly. He wasn't just a businessman playing at danger. This was who he really was, the part of himself he'd been trying to hide from Sophia, and maybe from Elena too. One of Caruso's men made it inside. Marco intercepted him in the foyer, and the fight was brutal. Elena covered Sophia's ears as the sounds of violence filled the safe room. Then, on the monitor showing Dante's study, the bookshelf moved. Someone had the code. Someone was opening the safe room. Elena's heart stopped. She grabbed Sophia and backed toward the escape panel Dante had mentioned, her fingers frantically searching for the release mechanism. The reinforced door opened. Anthony stepped through, his hands raised. It's me. It's just me. Elena nearly collapsed with relief. What's happening out there? It's over. FBI arrived. Caruso's men are in custody. Anthony's expression was grim. But Dante... What? What happened to Dante? He's hit. Shoulder wound. Paramedics are working on him now. Sophia made a sound like a wounded animal. Elena held her tighter, her own vision blurring with tears. Is he going to die? No. It's serious but not fatal. He's conscious, alert, asking for both of you. Anthony stepped aside. Come on. He needs to see that Sophia is okay. They found Dante in the great room, sitting on the couch while a paramedic worked on his shoulder. Blood soaked his shirt, but his color was good, his eyes clear. When he saw Sophia, his face crumpled with relief. Tesoro. Sophia broke free from Elena and ran to him, climbing carefully into his lap on his uninjured side. She was crying so hard she couldn't speak, just holding on to him like he might disappear. I'm okay, baby. I'm okay. Dante's voice was rough, his good arm wrapped around her. See? Papa's tough. Takes more than that to stop me. But his eyes found Elena over Sophia's head, and she saw the fear in them. Fear of how close he'd come. Fear of what might have happened if things had gone differently. We should get you to a hospital, the paramedic said. No hospitals. Treat me here. Mr. Castellano, this needs proper care, I said here. Dante's voice was steel. I'm not leaving my daughter again. Not tonight. The paramedic sighed but nodded, pulling out supplies to clean and stitch the wound. It took 40 minutes, and Dante didn't make a sound, just held Sophia with his good arm and kept his eyes on Elena. When it was done, when the house had been cleared, and Caruso's men had been taken away, and the FBI had taken statements, when Marco and Anthony had finally left and Mrs. Chen had cleaned up the worst of the damage, Elena sat on the floor beside the couch where Dante lay with Sophia asleep on his chest. You scared me, she said quietly. I scared myself. Dante's hand found hers in the darkness. When I realized they might get to you, to Sophia, I've never been that afraid in my life. But you stopped them. This time. His voice was heavy. But there will always be another Vincent Caruso. Another threat. Another reason someone wants to hurt the people I love. Then we'll handle them. Together. Dante's hand tightened on hers. You really want this life? Bodyguards and safe rooms and men with guns breaking down our door? I want Sophia. And I want you. Elena met his eyes. Everything else we'll figure it out. I can't promise you safety. I'm not asking for safety. I'm asking for honesty, for trust, for whatever this is between us to be real, not just convenience or proximity or gratitude. It's real, Dante said quietly. God help us both, it's real. Sophia stirred, mumbling in her sleep. Dante's hand moved to her back, soothing automatically. He looked at his daughter, then at Elena, and something shifted in his expression, hope mixing with fear, mixing with something that looked like love. Stay, he said simply. Not because I'm paying you, not because Sophia needs you. Stay because you want to. I want to, Elena whispered. I'm not going anywhere. They sat like that through the night, Dante on the couch with Sophia safe against his chest, Elena beside them with her hand in his. A family formed not by blood but by choice, by survival, by love that had grown in the spaces between danger and hope. Outside, Chicago glittered in the darkness. Vincent Caruso sat in a federal holding cell, his empire crumbling. The waterfront properties were safe. The immediate threat was contained. But they all knew this was just one battle. There would be others. There always were, in Dante's world. The difference now was that he wouldn't face them alone. Epilogue, 6 months later. The butterfly garden opened on a perfect May morning. Elena stood at the entrance, watching families stream through gates toward the elaborate gardens Dante had built on the waterfront property Caruso had tried to steal. The Castellano Foundation Children's Garden. Sophia's name, Sophia's vision, funded by the man who'd learned that the best revenge was building something beautiful. There are so many people, Sophia said beside her, her voice stronger now, more confident. She still spoke quietly, but she spoke. Real words, real sentences, real connection to the world around her. Because everyone wanted to see what you created, Elena said, straightening Sophia's butterfly print dress. You ready? Sophia nodded, taking Elena's hand. Together they walked toward the ribbon-cutting ceremony where Dante stood with city officials and foundation board members. He caught sight of them, and his whole face softened the expression he reserved only for his daughter, and, increasingly, for Elena. There she is, he said, stepping away from the mayor to crouch beside Sophia. The artist herself. Ready to show everyone your garden? Our garden, Sophia corrected. Papa built it. Elena helped design it. I just painted the butterflies. You did more than paint butterflies, Tesoro. This whole place exists because of your vision. It was true. 6 months ago, Sophia had drawn a picture, a garden where butterflies could be safe, where children could learn about beauty and transformation, where nobody had to be scared. Dante had taken that drawing and made it real, pouring money and time and determination into creating something that honored his daughter's hope. The mayor handed Sophia oversized scissors. Would you like to do the honors? Sophia looked at Elena, then at her father. Together? So the three of them cut the ribbon together, Dante's hand over Sophia's, Elena's hand supporting from behind. The crowd cheered as the ribbon fell and families poured into the garden. Watching children run through spaces designed for joy, Elena felt something settle in her chest. 6 months ago, she'd been desperate, drowning, barely surviving. Today, she stood at a butterfly garden opening with a little girl who'd become her daughter in all but name, and a man who'd become, what are you thinking about? Dante appeared beside her, his hand finding the small of her back. A gesture that had become automatic, natural, necessary. How much has changed? For the better, I hope. Definitely for the better. Elena leaned into him slightly. Though I still don't understand how you got the permit so fast. I'm very persuasive when I want to be. Is that what you call it? He smiled the real smile he saved for private moments. The mayor owed me a favor, I collected. They watched Sophia running through the butterfly house, her laughter echoing off glass walls. Other children followed her, and she didn't flinch away. She engaged, explained, showed them her favorite specimens with the unself-conscious joy of a child who'd learned to trust the world again. She's thriving, Dante said, his voice thick with emotion. Because of you. Because of us. We did this together. Elena? He turned to face her fully, taking both her hands. I need to ask you something. Her heart skipped. Okay. You've been living with us for 6 months. You've become essential to Sophia, to the house, to, he paused, to me. And I've been trying to figure out how to ask this without making it weird or putting pressure on you, but I don't think there's a non-weird way to say it. Say what? Stay forever. Not as an employee, not because of a contract or salary or obligation. His dark eyes held hers with painful intensity. Stay because you're family, because Sophia needs you. Because he stopped, seeming to gather courage. Because I love you. The words hung in the air between them. Elena's eyes filled with tears. You don't have to say it back, Dante added quickly. I know it's complicated. I know my world is dangerous and demanding and you didn't sign up for. I love you too. The words tumbled out. I've been trying not to for months because it seemed impossible and inappropriate and terrifying. But I love you. Both of you. This strange, beautiful family we've built. Dante's smile was incandescent. He pulled her close, kissing her with a tenderness that made her knees weak. Around them, the garden opening continued, people laughing, children playing, butterflies dancing through the air, but in that moment, it was just the two of them. Papa, Elena, come see. Sophia's voice called from the butterfly house. They pulled apart, laughing. Duty calls, Elena said. Wait. Dante reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. I was going to do this differently. Plan something romantic and perfect. But life with you has taught me that perfect moments happen when you least expect them. Elena's breath, it caught as he opened the box. A ring sat inside, simple, elegant, with a blue stone the color of butterflies' wings. Marry me, Dante said simply. Be Sophia's mother officially. Be my partner in everything. Help me build a life that's about more than just survival. Say yes to messy and complicated and sometimes dangerous, but also to beautiful and real and full of love. Papa, Elena, the monarch is hatching. Sophia's voice was urgent now. Dante laughed. That's not a metaphor, by the way. There's actually a chrysalis we've been watching. Yes. Elena interrupted, tears streaming down her face. Yes, to all of it. To you, to Sophia, to messy, complicated, beautiful life. Yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her again. Then they ran hand in hand toward the butterfly house where Sophia was watching with wonder as a monarch emerged from its chrysalis, wings wet and crumpled, preparing for its first flight. Look, Sophia whispered as they arrived. She's waking up. The three of them stood together, watching transformation happen in real time. The butterfly's wings began to pump with blood, slowly unfurling, growing stronger with each passing moment. Just like us, Sophia said quietly, taking Elena's hand in one of hers and Dante's in the other. We were all in cocoons. Now we're flying. Elena looked at this little girl who'd taught her about hope, at this man who'd shown her that love could grow even in dangerous places, and felt something profound shift in her chest. She'd walked into this life terrified, desperate, just trying to survive. Now she was standing in a butterfly garden watching a family take flight, and it was more beautiful than anything she'd ever dared to dream. Papa, Sophia said suddenly, can Elena be my mama now? For real? Dante crouched beside his daughter, his eyes bright with emotion. Would you like that, Tesoro? Yes, because she already is, in my heart, but I want it to be official. Well, Dante looked at Elena, love radiating from every part of him. Elena just said yes to marrying me, so soon, very soon, she'll be your mama officially. Sophia threw her arms around both of them, squeezing tight. Best family ever. Around them, the butterfly garden hummed with life and laughter. The sun streamed through glass walls, casting rainbow patterns across the floor. Butterflies danced through the air, free and fearless and full of joy. And in the center of it all, three people who'd been broken by grief and fear and danger learned what it meant to be whole again, together. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.